Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for spending some time in this place and space, making some space and time for us. We are excited to reconvene and talk about our next subject of today, and that subject is the power of words. And I know that sounds very silly, but honestly, we cannot emphasize enough how powerful words are, as words help to hold the illusion together, as well as the illusion that you create around yourself and your own universe, so to speak. Words, first of all, where we come from, we don't use words. I'm sure you've heard that before. If you're in the spiritual aspect, the spiritual sector, or even I would assume in the certain religious sectors, outside of body, the illusion of body, there's no real need for words. Words are, there's really even no need for words here, as this is third density, right? This is a world of physicality. This is a world of action, right? So, and words are words are a passive action. They're not really a physical action, and this is a physical world. So words even really are very mundane and not really necessarily needed here. So to use words really adds to the illusion in which you're in or engaging in. So it is important to understand that any words you use are so incredibly important because they either add or subtract to the illusion that you're currently in. And for many of us, we want to subtract from the illusion and completely disengage from it. So the less words you use, or the more clarity and conciseness you use your words with, allows you to disengage from the illusion. When we say to be careful and use your words in a very specific way, we do not mean become a mute and therefore not say anything at all, because that is the complete opposite, and that's feeding into a different illusion. That's the illusion of fear, right? So we don't intend to say don't use words at all to then put you into an illusion of fear, but more of the idea of what are the words that you're using and sharing and therefore engaging and colluding in an illusion with. So for many of us, and I mean just about all of us, including me, many times being a part and playing a part in the illusion, having to play a part simply to be here, words create space between universal principalities. Words create space between us, because words, again, are just... words are thoughtless, really. They're thoughtless thought forms that just get in the way of the true intentionality of what it is that's really being expressed and shared. Because if you really were quiet and just observed and stared at somebody and looked at somebody and watched somebody, you don't need words to understand what it is that they're going through. They don't need words to understand what it is that you're going through. That doesn't mean that you're going to start talking to each other telepathically, but I'm pretty sure you both get the message of what it is that you are both sharing without words. If you have a significant other and you guys are in balance with each other, then I invite you to check this out for yourself. If you just negate words for the entire day and just work on the principality of watching somebody, of being there with somebody and being present with them, you won't need words. Now, it might make it easier in the sense of it might make things quicker to say, hey, watch out, or hey, what the hell are you talking about? Or hey, I don't know what this gesticulation means. But again, that's only you only use words to help save on time. But if time is an illusion, because you are creating time in every single second, then you don't really need to save on time. Really, all then you're saving on is the space and distance that you're creating more of when you're using words to relate to another individual, right? But again, that does not mean that we say, well, let's just abscond from words altogether. There's a process, right? So let's not go from 0 to 100 in that idea. But in the idea of, okay, so what words am I using? What thoughts that then are word-like in my mind that are not helping me and then further putting me into an illusion every time I open my eyes, right? What are my self-thoughts looking like? Is it, oh my God, I look like poop today? Or, oh my God, I really need to floss my teeth because this thing has been in my, so many thoughtless words coming through, and that helps you to further engage in the illusion. Now, that doesn't mean to get that crap out of your teeth that you need to floss, but that also doesn't mean you're going to sit and ruminate on it forever and ever and ever until you actually do it, right? Which is for most of us. Most of us get caught up in the thoughts, which means that if we're caught up in the thoughts, that puts more distance away from the truth of who it is that you are, which puts you further more into the illusion, right? So what are the words that are going on even within my mind? And then what are the words that I'm choosing to then express and articulate to somebody else, right? Because most of the time also, first of all, if I'm asking somebody a question, I already have the answer, right? So that kind of negates half of the conversations that we have. But even beyond that, what are the words that I'm choosing? And if I must have a question, let me ask what that question is. Let me not be vague. Let me not go on a tangent, right? Because I cannot tell you. Oh my gosh, I cannot tell you how often people ask me a question and it's not really the question that they're asking me. And that drives me personally into self-doubt, right? Which then drives me crazy, right? And so that's what I was going to say drives me crazy, but let me be clear. What drives me crazy is when I'm moved into self-doubt, which then literally I am crazy, because then I'm disconnected from the truth of the balance of the principle that I am, which is intuition, right? So people will sit and ask me, hey, Brilliant, what are you doing today? And that's not really what it is that you want to ask me. You don't care what I'm doing today. I mean, of course, I'm sure that there's a genuine care, but that's not really what it is that you're asking me. You're asking me what I'm doing because you want to know when we could hang out, or you want to know how I could fit you into my schedule. But that doesn't mean that you want to know what it is that I'm doing today then. That simply means that you are trying to passively interject yourself into my universe, into my universal principality that I am. And that is frustrating because, again, we are creating an illusion together because you're not asking what it is that you really want to ask. And I'm not going to tell you what it is that you really want to know because you're not asking me the question that you really want to know. So then, therefore, you get frustrated. So then, okay, you ask me what my day is, and then I tell you what my day is. And then you're like, well, what about this? And then what about that? And then what about here? And what about there? And when I already answered the question in which you already asked, which then evokes 10 more questions, which then indicates to me that you are not really asking me what it is that you want to ask me, which then means that we are engaging in an illusion, which means that then I'm going to get frustrated because you're putting me into self-doubt. And then therefore, if you're going to put me into self-doubt, then I'm going to be distant from you because I need to reintegrate into myself and rebalance and recalibrate myself. And I use myself as an example, but again, it is the idea of every universal principality goes out of balance when, first of all, words are being used to corroborate within the illusion, as well as when anybody's asking a question without being clear on what it is that their question is, that is always going to put that universal principality into the imbalance or inverse of what it is that they are. If you keep on questioning the universal principality of life and death, guess what you're going to get? The death blow, right? If you keep on questioning the universal principality because you're not really asking the main question in which you wish to ask of evolution, then guess what? They're going to blast you back into a very de-evolved state because, again, you're not being clear with them in your your objectivity of what it is that you're needing to hear and understand, right? And all of this could be avoided. All of this could be completely altered if you were just clear on what you really want to ask and why you're not actually asking it, instead of going through a big facade, going into a big illusion of what it is that you really would like to ask, which then again, it puts everybody else into a counterbalance, including yourself. And then you and the person in which you're even having this conversation with become even more distant between each other because you are not being transparent with what it is that you're needing to express in that moment. So the idea of words is so crucial, because if you are not using your words wisely, if you're not using your words transparently, if you're not using your words that are congruent with the universal principality that you are, and therefore the intentionality in which you're trying to disseminate from the other, then therefore you both are getting lost in the illusion, and it's harder to come back into balance within yourself and then rectify the illusory nonsense that just happened between you, because then you have to kind of cut the illusion in half to come back to each other. So words are so very important because if you're not using them correctly, and really there is no correct way to use words because words are part of the illusion to begin with, but if you're not using them correctly in the idea with congruence to the universal principality that you are and using it in a transparent way, then you are helping to continue to corroborate and create more of a thicker illusion around you and the other in which you're having that conversation with, which then means that we are further apart than ever. We are no longer even close to being connected. Now I'm on one continent and you're on the other, and we're screaming at each other trying to understand what the hell the other's saying, when all of that could be avoided if you were just clear and intentional in what it is that you're asking. But in order to be clear and intentional with what it is that you're asking, you have to know yourself. And if you know yourself, then there's a potentiality that you won't even ask the question, because if you have the question, you already have the answer, right? So therefore, you don't even need to necessarily connect with an individual on that level. You could connect with them on a more my goodness. You could connect with them on a more authentic level, on a more authentic frequency, on a more authentic way that is congruent with the universal principalities that you both are when you are in balance with one another. So that is a lot to take in. We invite you to think about that, but not too hard, because if you're thinking too hard about what it is that's being said, then you're going into an illusion. So we leave you with that. We thank you so much for your time and space and being with us, and we wish you well, love, and light upon your journey.